can you say and spell your first and last name and your title for me?
No problem. My name is Buddy Dalton, B-U-D-D-Y-D-A-L-T-O-N. Title is a local citizen of Flushing Township.
All right, so tell me what's going on here today. What is this all about?
We're having a meeting. They're drafting an ordinance about solar panels. Everything looks great until we get to page 3, section C, line 5. Restricts the use to 192 square feet for a lot that's over an acre. A lot of people have residential land here. We've worked hard for our land. We want to be able to put in solar panels. So I'm asking them, what do they care? Because it's my own backyard. We want to be able to raise it to the lawn of commercial. They've established commercial at 25% of land use at the last meeting. A lot of people didn't make it. So I was here, I sat through the meeting, and I questioned them about the land use, and I don't know if they're going to change it. So we're here today to request them to change the land use for residential to 25%. That way people can use solar panels and use energy. And then you'll be able to not have a power bill. Your consumer's energy bill could go to 0. I heard of somebody telling me today in their association that somebody had a power bill of $5 credit after they installed solar panels. So you could actually reverse your power bill.
So you really want this?
I'm going to have it for my home, and I want this for myself and for my kids. I've noticed the rates keep going up. I'm not getting any more pay raises on my paycheck. It seems like the power needs are going up with more things that use electricity.
Just walk me through one more time the restriction that is in this ordinance that you guys are not happy about.
Right here. I want to use all my land. They're trying to say 192 square foot of land. So my question is, how can they tell us if you have acres of land that you can only use 192 square foot? That's the size of a small bedroom. It's really 10 by 20 area. So that's not enough. So this ordinance purposely restricts the use of solar panels. So we're just politely asking them to allow us to use more of our land. We want to use 100%, right? But they're going to allow 25% for commercial. So if a person has 100 acres, they can put in 25 acres of solar panels. That's a lot. So we only want to have maybe an acre or two, something within reason.
Do they give a reason for why they only wanted you guys to have 192 square feet as opposed to having free access to put in as many solar panels as you want? If it's
well, that's
your
kind
own
of funny. That's kind of funny. The person who wrote the ordinance, the representative said it was written for a subdivision, so it was kind of improperly written in the first place, since this is known to be mostly rural areas. So that right there, they said it was for residential subdivisions. They also said perhaps it would make your property value go down. They said maybe it would, the neighbors wouldn't like to look at it. They said it might offer too much reflection, drainage, many things that were just unfounded. Also it was said that it might be for partial use, which we know solar panels can provide enough energy for your entire home. And it was also said to me by one of the board members it was a fad like 30 years ago that I couldn't remember. I remember when we had solar panels, but they weren't this good and they weren't this affordable. Now they're affordable and they're awesome. So if a person doesn't want solar panels, that's okay. But if a person does want to install them, that should be okay too. So I'm here to ask them to just allow us to try it. If we don't like it, I guess it doesn't work out. But I plan on installing them. It's going to last for 25 years. I'll get about 15, 20 years of free energy out of it, and then I'll replace them. I'll recycle them. My name is Buddy, and I own a home on 9 acres of land here in Flushing Township. I'm also a husband and a father of 2 sons. My goals are to live peacefully, enjoy time with my boys while they are young, and one day soon install solar panels in my backyard. The land that I own is surrounded by trees, a pond, and unused property. This installation will eliminate my current power bill, free up extra spending money for basic needs, and cancel the chance of an outage or price increase in the future. The cost of consumers' energy is a true burden and considered just a sad fact of life to most people. But those who install solar panels can experience true energy free as we see fit. With a simple permit, we should be able to install all the panels we would like to buy. I hope you consider the needs of these residents as important as the zoning needs of farming and commercial. Please raise the maximum amount allowed for ground-mounted solar collectors to match 25% of commercial, instead of the maximum allowed 192 square foot for a lot that is over 1 acre, that is stated on page 3, section C, line 5. This proposed solar panel ordinance does not seem legal. That is why we are all here, and it concerns many more of us that are not here today. As you hear from your fellow citizens, please consider our request to do the right thing. Allow us to use our land for ground-mounted solar panels, the pursuit of happiness in the American dream, and at least 25% land use for ground-mounted panels.
First of all, I want to extend an invitation to all you on the board here who come come on over and check out my system. I have an off-grid system. It's, you know, there's on and off-grid. But that's, about 3 or 4 years ago, we were without power during the week of Christmas and Christmas Day. In this time, I was fortunate enough to have a generator. However, gas was about $4 a gallon, and it cost me nearly $300 to keep the house going. This is when I decided to go solar. I drove by my buddy Mike's house over there and saw he had it, and that's when I knew I wanted to do it. So I wanted to go off-grid. Grid tie systems don't work when the power is out, and I've been adding panels as I go to try and achieve energy independence. Right now I have 1,500 watts of panels, which is 120 square feet. That's about enough to run my barn constantly and sometimes run my house.
One of my concerns for those are us who already have solar systems. Will we be grandfathered in, and will this be in writing? Now I'd like to give some information on the township ordinance provision of ground-mounted solar collectors as I understand it. 96 square feet, that's 3 sheets of plywood, not near enough to produce any kind of power. On average in the US it takes about 6,000 watts to run a home, not 600 watts. So I've done some research on other townships in Michigan like Perry Township, east of Lansing, Millington Township, south of Vassar. Both allow 20% of their total area may be covered by ground-mounted solar system. Now when it comes to height, on average is somewhere between 10 and 15 feet. And again, this is non-commercial.
That's something that we kept in mind aesthetically. What changes the character of our single-family homes in those districts? So that's how we came to that number, is looking at essentially 3 of them laid out, looking at a trampoline size, and saying, over a trampoline size, is that changing our character of the single-family communities? And so far, that's been our discussion so far. And the Planning Commission, as you are aware, can change that number. We can go to previous drafts. We've had different ratios. We've had percentage bases. So far, we've gone more the number of square footage routes, but we have looked at those before.
Just to make sure I understand right, what you're saying then is, if it's a roof-mounted solar collector, that is handled in the office. That does not have to come to the Planning Commission on that.
Correct. How we currently have it drafted.
Okay. That question came up. Also, how we were going to apply these rules and stuff.
I would presume you would do it similar to what other communities do for a fencing permit, have a special application, have it reviewed by administrative staff for those all requirements, so making sure that it's structurally sound, meets electrical codes, kind of piggyback off of the electrical inspector's probably review of it. Making sure that doesn't exceed the maximum height, or making sure that it meets within setbacks, especially in the situation where a panel might lean over a roof in some capacity. This would make sure that it's not impeding within that protected setback.
Are you saying that the total roof area can be used for that? That's the area that is around it, structure?
Besides that 3-foot buffer for the eaves, troughs, and peak areas that we had talked about needing access to the different roofing components.
It'd still be sufficient enough so that they can use it for all of them.
Right, so we can either do a square foot percentage or a square foot number per acre like we currently have, or we can change it back to having a certain, or doing it like some of the provisions do where it's a lot coverage cap. And you could do that for those, if that's the way you guys wanted to go about it.
Well, you've done a lot of these elsewhere in the community, and we talked about other people and what they do, and I guess that what we're doing is following what you're suggesting that we do, because that's what other communities have done.
Right, but
Passed or accepted.
right, but all communities have been tailoring it slightly different, generally speaking, especially because you're allowed to tailor it towards your community. So some of the communities have gone for a flat out percentage. Other ones, we looked at Lapeer Township, they do it a per acre ratio. So it really depends how you want to structure it. Communities have done it in both ways.